form right now. I'm really excited to see what Buriram United Esports can bring out here as we enter the bans and the initial picks. What are you guys expecting right off the bat over here? We have seen this matchup happen so many times. Any surprises?
But as the Bron ban, as you kind of predicted, I was imagining it was going to be a bit of a focus, right? Maybe veer far more towards these like enchanters. Ziggs and Varus, those are denied straight away, you know, this annoying harass. It's a case of we just want to team fight you, the Galio becomes a priority, and I think it becomes more so because, you know, Twisted Fate is still there, but more so the fact that if you are going to then dive us, the Galio is the best protector in that regard.
Yeah, it is basically a really good punish and really good initiator for the side of Buriram United. Not going to be surprised if that's going to fall towards supporter. So now the biggest question is, what are the AD carry options here? Because Kai'Sa and Xayah Rakan is still available for the taking. We've seen that constantly being swapped back and forth for Kinemon and Cat Satan. But in the meantime, Buriram already first dibs on this Twisted Fate, which G4 constantly picked up against Buriram as well. So this double global comp so far is looking pretty scary.
Yeah, it looks to me as if they want to try and basically say, EVOS, we respect what you can do mechanically in team fights and skirmishes. We want to try and break you open in these side lanes. So I like it. Obviously, the Java can still be flexed between top and jungle. Not going to see it in the mid lane, given the fact that the TF is there. But the next big priority has to be that Kai'Sa, and EVOS are going to snap that away. So they've given themselves some options to try and hard force that fight there with the Hextech Ultimatum, with the Killer Instinct, with the Gragas Barrel, but it's going to be on Buriram now to try and keep themselves in check in these side lanes, and if that Corki gets locked in, scale into those multiple Barons that you talked about, Riku.
Yeah, I can't imagine all of these 5v5s, everybody going to be clumped together, considering that EVOS is going to have possibly a 4 melee composition. Never mind, as they are going to be locking Ari for G4. He had a really good performance yesterday up against Divine, and it could be the same story again.
And
like
right now, we did mention that it would be an ADC showdown. We have the Corki versus the Kai'Sa. I just kind of want to get a sort of overall view of what you think this matchup is going to look like. Skimmy, we'll start with you.
I think Buriram, you really want to witness how good they are in hitting those side lanes. You want to make sure that Galio and TF, once they hit level 5, that first ultimate has to have some impact. They have to try and play around this J4. He has to be that initiator to say, we're going to this lane, we're going to bully, it's going to be a 4v1 dive, and that's going to find success. That could be a kill, that could be an objective like a Herald or Drake, or it could be a turret. They need to try and explode into this map. Otherwise, I think if they go a little bit too slow and bank on this Corki just becoming a scaling pick, it has been punished. And I think a team as well orchestrated as EVOS have the tools with their draft to say that we can punish it well.
And Riku, any final thoughts?
For me, just look at the early 5v5s on Rift Herald. AD carries are going to rotate. EVOS should not fight in choke points, or else they're just going to receive all the bombs from Kinemon.
And with that, let's head into our first game of the day, Buriram United versus EVOS Esports. Casters, take it away.
Well, thanks a bunch. We're jumping into day number 2 of the playoffs with 2 of the Thailand region teams, and it's so exciting. Buriram United and EVOS Esports. I'm Gaming This, and with me is TJ. We're about to get into this, and we've talked so much about this bot lane matchup, TJ. I don't know what more we could say.
Yeah, I mean, Kinemon versus Cat Satan, 2 of the greatest AD carries are going to go there in the world, Grandon.
Oh.
And this entire draft is built around them. You have G4, you have Archony, 2 of the best supportive mid laners in the world, granted. And they're both playing characters designed to get down into that bottom lane and create an advantage. Thipper and Noel, 2 of the best top laners, I'll say it, in the world, granted. They're both on more tanky, supportive characters. They're not going to be doing much in the top side. All the action for this game, all the action for this repeat of the Thai regional final is going to be down between Kinemon and Cat Satan.
And it's even further exasperated by the fact that we've seen Shiba go for Riven and Veldas go for Camille, 2 strong team fighters that are willing to go and help each other, to go and help accelerate and get a good team fight for their AD carries.
Can I be toxic now that I've been really nice to both these teams?
Go ahead, TJ.
I was going to say, I think Valdez is one of the best junglers in the world. Shiba has a bit more to prove. EVOS, of course, the reigning champions here in Southeast Asia, do come into this tournament with the crown kind of over their heads as the SEA Summer Cup champions. And I think that... Okay, I'm getting very distracted. What a dive here in mid.
Yeah, they dodge away from the hook shot, so EVOS won't be able to convert that into a kill, but a strong start nonetheless.
That was just a very strange mid-presence from Shiba. And this is, I guess, what I was about to talk about, which is there's no reason for Buriram to be able to rely on their jungler in the same way that EVOS can, frankly. VODs is a solo duelist. He's really good at ganking. He's really good at finding supportive picks. Shiba, at best, has been a team fighter, has been a supportive player. He's not created the same kind of map control. And that's why there's a lot of pressure on his head in this matchup to do exactly what he's starting to do right now and get out into lanes, influence his AD carry, because Kinemon's Corki is very likely going to be make it or break it for Buriram.
Sure, he's assuring the safety of Catsignet and Rich in the bot side, but this is also allowed for them to make a quick recall timing, head back to base, grab a couple of items, come back refreshed and ready to fight again. And so BRU also going to try and reset now, get some time and get some tempo back.
We do also have one other pick I want to touch on before we leave the draft, and that's going to be this Twisted Fate for Archony. And I'm a little, I don't know, I've got a question mark above it for two reasons. One, Archony had a pretty disastrous, we're going to have to see a mid pick here again.
Yeah, they're moving in quick. There we have the hook shot. The Hextech ultimatum is online early for EVOS Esports, so they're looking for a fight, but Supporter's going to be there, blocks you and stops you in place.
So, Archony had a pretty disastrous play-in stage, repaired by a pretty incredible group stage. But one of the things that went wrong during play-ins was we never saw him get out of lane early. He would tend to play really passive, which is exactly the opposite of what you need to do on Twisted Fate, where you need to be leaving the mid lane and joining your jungler. Combine that with the fact that Shiba, as I talked about, isn't a very aggressive jungler, and I worry that they're not going to find maximum value out of this Twisted Fate. Especially when G4 has drafted Ahri into it, which is a character and a matchup designed specifically to hunt down and kill that Twisted Fate in duels, in 1v1s.
Sure, and we're starting to see it now as well. I mean, the fact is, Archony's holding on to his ultimate, but he hasn't been looking for much of a window. But down bot side, Supporter's looking to start things off. Shiva's right around the corner, ready to potentially engage, but it's still a little bit too difficult to find it.
And we told you that all the action in this game, Destiny Gate open.
Actually does use it at top side and finds
Nice.
the catch on the top lane.
And very risky play from Thipper, disrespecting the teleport from Archony, as he just goes in for a very low HP 1v1 versus Noel, staying to the edge of his health bar, and you can't do that versus a Twisted Fate team. Which makes me think that EVOS had kind of the same read we did coming into this, and they weren't too concerned about Archony teleporting. Archony has set the baseline now, set up that he is going to show up in those side lanes, and EVOS will have to play careful as a result.
They're going to play carefully, but they're still going to try and pick up the dragon. It's going to reset in time, so EVOS have to reset and not try and commit to this. I say that, but VODs is going to continue again. They've given BRU the opportunity to come back towards the dragon and try and prime and get ready for this.
And this is where it's so terrifying to play against Twisted Fate, because every gold card that Archony throws is going to get converted into a kill if there's follow-up. Gold card and Twisted Fate is terrifying around this window in the early game.
But I see what they were trying to do. They were buying time for Tipper to come back. He's respawned back towards the dragon pit. Both sides playing towards this. It's VODs that starts it up again, though. So EVOS Esports are in the pit looking to try and fight for this, but they bought enough time. Supporter's going to be the one to initiate first. Hextech already comes up. They're locking down the Shiba. Try to take down the ribbon. Flash away from the charm. Survives long enough, and they build up time for the shield to come across the hill's entrance. Blocking off EVOS Esports. Richards had the flash. The second, the third. VODs stuck in the pit. They're taking down Tipper. Round number 2. He's sent back to base. BRU's coming in strong. Cat's in and trades back for 1 with the gold card. Back onto Rich. Charm comes across onto Archony. Stomps him, but still, BRU will win the dragon fight.
And both AD carries get a kill there, but Kinemon is the only one that was actually in that fight. Cat Satan spent the entire team fight zoned off over the wall at the bottom side of the map, arriving to finish off a kill at the very end. And Buriram get a massive advantage out of that as their main source of damage, the character they're trying to scale up throughout this game, just gets to sit at the back of the fight and pump out the numbers.
And EVOS Esports, they're not content with how that one turned out. They're back on the Dragon again, but look at the ultimates. I mean, Archony, the fight's gone on for so long, the Destiny's back available, and it's just down to Tipper, it's just down to Katsune to maybe make something happen. Once again, Supporter will be the one to initiate. Shiba's right there by his side, ready to provide some assistance if they need it. It's a 5v5, a full man collapse. They're onto the Dragon. Who's gonna grab this? It's gonna go over the BRU, and the fight turns onto EVOS as well. Destiny Gate over the other end, taking down Valdez first. Jungler dead, jungler gone. Tipper tries to trade back. The big one won't be enough to take down the Darius, but still finds a lot of damage.
Archony, that was one of the sickest Twisted Fate plays I've ever seen. A short-range teleport over the wall to reposition, not out of the fight, but to safety, to get him in with the team so that he can still contribute. That's why Archony has the fewest deaths of any winning mid laner in this tournament. He does not die because his understanding of positioning, his understanding of how to dance at the edge of team fights and still contribute to them is next to none. What's this? Back of the fight, all the BRU are zoned into the Dragon Pit. They have no way to get out, and it's dangerous. So Archony teleports out, lands a gold card, perfectly stunning up Valdez, and guaranteeing the kill.
I'm gonna give a little bit of credit to Shiba. I feel like the Riven was able to buy a lot of time and space so those plays could happen. As I say that, you can never praise these players, TJ. Never ever, because look at him, he's gone.
They always disappoint you, Grandin.
The
Just
moment
like my
I see
father.
it, TJ, it's just not fair. Well, Supporter, he's back for the re-engage. Can find the catch on the Tipper first. Once again, looking to take down this Darius early on. Reg is looking low as well. Valdez won't secure the Rift Herald, but over on the other end, you still have to worry about the Darius. They're coming in big, taking down 3 on the side BRU.
A very good fight win for EVOS as Buriram overextend. The second G4 finds that initial kill, you need to pull the plug. You're not going to win that fight once EVOS have a tangible advantage on the map, because raw numbers-wise, Cat Satan is doing more damage. Cat Satan at this game state provides more damage because not only does he have the first item matching what Kinemon has, but he's also got the first evolution of Kai'Sa, that Q evolve, adding just a little extra 10% on top of first item. So he's matching and then getting that extra from the Kai'Sa Q evolve, from the Kai'Sa Acathian Rain evolve, to do massive damage in these team fights. And EVOS are always going to win a fair fight, or definitely going to win an advantaged fight, such as when they find an easy kill early thanks to G4's charm.
And as we talk back about having these advantage fights, I mean, a big component of that, it's gonna be Archony, and we start to see him building towards those 2 critical items, but I'm feeling a little bit conflicted here, TJ, because he's expanded the flash to try to catch Cat Satan, and at the same time, he's opted for the Lich Bane over the Rapid Fire Cannon.
Yeah, Archony is going for a little bit more damage here. That's what that Lich Bane versus Rapid Fire Cannon thing is. I'm actually a little bit more. I know Omo came here and said anyone who doesn't build Rapid Fire Cannon second is toxic. I'm actually a little bit more on Archony's side of this balance. I think Rapid Fire Cannon should be your third item, because if you get Lich Bane, particularly at this tempo, pre-10 minutes, you're doing a ton of damage. There's a little window here in the mid-game where this Twisted Fate from Archony gets the benefit of the Rod of Ages. The Rod of Ages is completing right about now, and also gets the benefit of being on second item, and can really do some serious damage in teamfights, and that's never going to be the case again. So if you just go Rapid Fire Cannon, you miss out on that timing window in the mid-cap.
And so having those damage items could be what they were looking for. I mean, if this is an indication that BRU maybe want to try and take some of these tougher fights in the mid-game while EVOS Esports still hasn't quite been able to scale up, it could be a bit of an indicator for that.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason you build Rapid Fire Cannon, the reason Omo, one of our other colorcasters on this show, prioritizes it so heavily, is because it's massive for the team. Once you have Rapid Fire Cannon, you can throw these gold cards in extra, I don't know, 5 meters, a little bit extra range, one of the longest ranges in the game on Twisted Fate. Ooh, and that's going to be dangerous because G4 demonstrates how Engage can start these fights.
It's a big Cataclysm locking them into the Galio ultimate. Massive from Supporter, who's once again been clutch for his team. Golka comes across. They're backing up, but they don't realize just how dangerous they truly are. In the face of BRU, EVOS Esports will fall apart as a quadra kill. And his Serpenta is stolen away by Archony.
But look at how much damage Archony is doing in that fight. That's why you build the Lich Bane. He's absolutely devastating in the middle of that fight, and they have a double damage threat with Kinemon and Archony both sort of coming online during this time, and they can just slaughter the tightly grouped EVOS members. And just like that, despite going down early in that fight, despite G4 finding the initiation with that charm, it's Buriram who turned things round because of the shift towards more damage from Archony, and they now have a pretty massive gold swing in their favor during a dangerous mid-game for two late-game scaling teams.
And it really seemed like BRU weren't even aware of how much damage they were able to afford onto EVOS there.
Yeah, I mean, watch Archony just through the middle of these fights, landing gold cards. That does like a quarter of G4's HP. The slice from the 3-card throw, absolutely devastating people's HP. This is the kind of fight that you really want a Twisted Fate into, where he can just sit defensively behind a front line and throw out damage.
And because of that, well, now BRU are looking stronger than before. Second dragon to them as well, and well, it's looking pretty decent for them overall. Here we have it. I mean, it's been difficult for them. They've been looking to try and catch the Porter, but he's so tanky and so difficult to take down.
And one of the things we need to pay attention to, of course, is where all this gold is going. Because this entire mid-game, as I touched on earlier, is building towards the late game for both teams. Both teams see a universe in which they are carried by their bottom lanes. Cat Satan and Kinemon, arguably, unarguably, the two best bottom laners in the world at this point.
So, going back on it.
I'm hitting it. So, what you need to look for as you're looking at this chart right now at the bottom of your screen is which one of those two bottom laners has more damage, has more effective gold on the map. And right now, by a country mile, it's Kinemon, who's had a fantastic start to his game, particularly with that last team fight where he got 3 kills. This is
Four,
just
in fact.
4 kills. This is just an absolute shopping spree for him, and he's completed both of his early crit items. He's probably also going to go IE here, and especially once he's completed IE, but already now that he's completed his first 2, he's just going to be able to devastate people with his standard auto attacks. This is kind of a movement check though, because Corki doesn't have a whole lot of mobility in fight. He has the Valkyrie, and that's a one-stop shop. So pay attention to how he paths through the fights, how he's maneuvering in hectic team fights. If Kinemon's able to just kind of glide through the team fight and throw out the auto attacks freely, they'll win, Buriram will win. If he gets shut down early, and EVOS do have the tools to do that. They have VODs, they have G4, all of whom are going to try and dive. So if they're able to get on and shut down Kinemon early or force him out of the fight, then EVOS will win.
And before we even get into those next big team fights, I mean, EVOS Esports are doing a great job responding by reacting in the side lanes, having Tipper continue to take down these turrets, and he's able to force Noel out, bull him out of lane.
And EVOS are so good at this. They're so good on the map. Just not even needing to teamfight, generating gold from the way they're maneuvering. They find those 2 side lane turrets just by forcing Buriram to defend mid, and then showing up in the side lane, winning the 1v1s versus the more defensive Noel. And that brings the gold that was kind of a drastic lead back down to striking distance. Back down to, okay, Cat Satan can maybe trade even in these fights. You're going to have to watch out for what Cat Satan's doing on the opposite end of that kind of AD carry duel. And that's going to force this. Buriram need to start a fight.
This is a nice catch on the Rich. I'm not sure if they have the damage to take him down. Blade of the Exile won't be able to connect, but forces the flash. A big initiator from Rich away. Here we have it. Noel's coming across. Tipper is going to be massive if he gets the solo kill here. Flashes him with the Apprehend. Locks down that kill for the side of EVOS Esports, but BRU have his number. They've taken him down as well. Supporter commits his ultimate just to be safe. But we have the Charm coming across from the other end. They look to take him down. Kinemon's immediately obliterated in that fight. Where did he go, TJ? I don't see him. Valdez will fall. G4 looking to output as much damage as he can. The Charm misses out onto Shiva. It's just down to this Ribbon, who's trying to get over the wall. One more jump. Hops over. G4 chasing after the Killer Instinct right hot on his tail. And he's taken down Shiba for a 4th kill for EVOS.
G4 makes the difference again. EVOS lose the skirmish battle. Valdez tries to get in, is denied by a great gold card from Archony. And G4 shows up. He finds a solo kill on the Charm. He dances forward into the fight, spreading his damage through everyone who's in the area, forcing Archony to run away and guaranteeing EVOS a path back into this game, as with that Drake pickup, they've now evened the gold up. We're dead even.
It's the best versus the best here, honestly. We're seeing such incredible standout performances, but it comes down to who's better able to coordinate these fights. And the marksman...
Watch G4.
I mean, Kinemon's just gone.
Boom. And that's the key target, like I talked about. If Kinemon goes down, these team fights are easy because they have more damage minus Kinemon.
It looks like they hit a repeat this again. They weren't happy about that. The gold card's gonna be used on a wolf, so that's gone. That's not an option anymore. EVOS Esports gonna rotate back towards the Baron. Doesn't look like they're gonna start it up though.
So all of Buriram's damage at this point in the game is in Kinemon, is in this one backline carry.
Charm comes across and Cat Satan's here to provide the damage for EVOS Esports. Conversely for his team, G4 almost goes down off the back of a Charm there.
And over on EVOS, it's a little more spread out. You can see G4 doing damage. You can see Thipper doing damage. Cat Satan doing damage. None of them quite equal what a late game fed Corki can do. None of them are quite up to that standard. But it is more than enough to dominate the team fight if Kinemon goes down, which makes this the greatest game of Protect the President in the history of Wild Rift. They have one person they need to escort. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he's got to get to his red carpet on time. Otherwise, Kinemon's going to be very disappointed.
And looking at this, TJ, it's Hourglass versus QSS for Kinemon and Cat Satan. It's a very different priority on how they intend to survive. Flashing in, Tipper's gonna get the catch off. The killer instinct comes to the back, takes down Archie. The fight kicks off with EVOS Esports already up a man, and they're looking to take down the rest as well. Kinemon tries to dash away with the back line with the hook shot coming across, looking to take down this Corki. One more auto attack will find it, but it's a triple kill. He still has the damage to keep things going. G4 will go down. Rich gets flashed on Noel. He's still fully topped out. I mean, how could his fight go this way?
How did Kinemon do that? He arrives in a losing team fight halfway through and finds 3 kills to turn things around for Buriram, and they're going to turn that into a turret, maybe even into an inhibitor turret. It's just Rich.
I mean, they're looking to take this down right now. Ignite goes on the wrong target, so Shiba's still very much taking alive, but Noel is dropping down low. Shiba's dropping low as well. I mean, Rich is chasing after, flashing forward. The body slam comes across. One more auto attack, but he flag and drags away with the blade of Excel's and the broken wave. Dodges away from the damage. He gets the kill.
Rich, a heroic effort by the support Gragas, but he just doesn't have enough damage. He did a great job underneath the turret though. He didn't actually focus on getting the kills, he focused on killing the minions. Because if he knew, if Rich can kill the minions, then Buriram just have to back away. And his heroic efforts, Rich's heroic efforts, keep EVOS in this game dead even pretty much. Their turret is down to half HP. But it's not gone. There are no super minions on the map.
They're moving on to Baron quickly. EVOS Esports need to respond to this. They know it's happening, and Tipper, he's running in first, but you have to deal with Supporter, who's in your face to begin with. Noel's going into the back line, trying to deal with Valdez. Gold card not ready as the blue card comes instead, but you still see the crowd control laid in from Kinemon. Watch out for Corki. Kinemon's coming in big. And they've taken down the 3 on the side of EVOS Esports. Rich just barely responds, but it's too little too late.
What a great play by Noel, getting into the back of that fight and splitting it in 2, which is critical, because if you remember, I told you that EVOS's damage is more spread out, and Cat Satan didn't contribute to the front lines now, because he was busy dealing with Noel, who was just running at him, and Noel doesn't have any damage, but Noel does have a really fat health bar, and that's enough to mean that EVOS can't kill him, while Buriram just gets to devote all their resources to a frontline fight they're guaranteed to win. Very well played by Noel, very well played by Buriram, and the reward is massive. They pick up the Elder Infernal Drake, and that should solidify the win.
I mean, it's a huge dragon to pick up for sure, and especially as an Elder, and well, with Baron now up, Buriram United could play it in one of 2 ways. They could either just push out the waves and play about the Baron, or go for it themselves, and well, frankly, at this point, looking at the gold lead they've started to establish, the objectives that they've had, it's looking much, much better for this team overall. Well, EVOS Esports, though, they're going to make a stand here, go towards the Baron first, and it's going to force the ultimate away from Archie to get information.
Yeah, good ult actually from Archie. I do really like it, because it just makes sure that, okay,
re-engage coming in from Shiva. Gokhan onto Tipper. Supporter once again. He's so difficult to take down, but you have to put eyes on the carry. It's on the Kinemon, who's trying to line in the sand with the package. Valkyrie here, Valkyrie there. He provides so much damage to the team, and if the Guardian Angel as well, you just can't quite take him down. The first is not going to be enough. Archie chases after the Gokhan, going the full distance, taking down G4. It's Supporter that claims the kill, but EVOS Esports will lose 3, and BRU escorting this lone minion through the mid lane. Will Rich be enough?
1 minion, that's all Rich needs to do is kill that cannon.
Take down the cannon, but he could do it, DJ! They're onto the Nexus, and it's too late. Velda's still alive, but he can't save the game! Game 1, over to this team!
Ended just that much better. So coming to this one, it looks like EVOS have just flipped the script and said, we're going to take blue side this time around. We're going to get that pocket pick, and we'll get to see if the bans change.
Yeah, first bans coming in and initial picks. I'm actually wondering, you know, that Buriram had such a strong team fight, team fight draft going here. Are we gonna see the same, Riku? Is this gonna be like Buriram again trying to force the brawls in here? Are we gonna see them shift at all, do you think, in the series?
Yeah, I feel like it's still going to be the same, where it could be Kaisa Corki, Zaya Rakan plus Kaisa matchup again, or possibly maybe even the Kaisa Lulu going to be appearing towards EVOS, just to make sure that Cat Satan stays alive, stays well. You know, so far we've managed to see Supporter really sort of outclass Rich in that Gragas versus Galio matchup, so we could possibly see the same thing. That's going to be Arshani on the Zig, so a lot of pokes. Varus is also open for the taking, so I'm not going to be surprised if ever a Jarvan 4 will be on Buriram's side, or maybe towards EVOS, but I don't know, because of course Tipper really best at Renekton most likely, and not on a tank, so of course Buriram is still gonna get this Jarvan 4 for themselves.
Yeah, and I like this, right? The fact that some of these bans do change, primarily the Ziggs and the Varus are let through, so you've now got that poke to not have to necessarily be as crazy in those team fights, but you've still got the core foundation here from Buriram. Flip the side, but they've still got themselves that Galio and that J4, which was instrumental in fighting the picks and locking you down and saying that by the time you've taken out our marksman, we've just done far too much to your team, right? So you've had to invest a lot to try and find that initial pick. So it looks like we're running it back with some similarities. The Nunu, though, is quite nice, and might just be the disruption they need, the added level of spice to try and be a pain for Buriram here.
Yeah, the Nunu will be one of the frontliners for EVOS here, just to make sure that no one is able to reach Cat Satan on this Varus, and as well as, of course, Rich here on the Gragas. I'm very, very curious to see how this is going to pan out, because G4 back at it again on the Ahri, so the charms are going to be very detrimental. Charms into the Chain of Corruptions as well could be a deadly combo up against Buriram, so they have to be careful with positioning. And of course, if you want to play the Varus, you're just going to be expecting people jumping on you, like the Jarvan 4 again on the opposite side. So it is a little bit, you know, predictable, linear. You know what you're expecting.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, with that Nunu pick and then the Ahri, you have a lot of mobility on the side of EVOS Esports, so I feel like they feel like they're ready to take the fight to Buriram United Esports. We're gonna see though, because Buriram, they're so good at turning team fights around, so who's gonna come up on top on game 2? We're gonna find out. Casters, over to you.
Thanks a bunch, Mika. Like you mentioned, this is going to be game number 2. EVOS Esports and Buriram United. I mean, looking at how things are going, they had an insane game number 1 win, and game number 2, I think things are just going to get more intense here, DJ.
Yeah, and one of the things that's already blowing my mind is the shift from EVOS. Game 1 to 2, they go, all right, game 1, our late game couldn't measure up to the damage that was being offered by Buriram in the team fights. Let's pull out some tanks of our own. We get the Nunu jungle from Valdez. One of the first times I've ever seen that from one of the best junglers on the world, picking up a new character here on this stage. And we get Rich again on the Gragas to be that beefy frontline for G4's return to the Ahri, which he did a truly incredible amount of damage on last game, and Cat Satan's pivot to the long-ranged poke, the Varus damage that can go over the top of that frontline.
And we traditionally see Varus paired together with some sort of enchanter, another kind of lane bully like the Nami, so that you get confirmed priority in lane. But in this case, we're actually seeing Rich continue with his Gragas, and he's had a good performance, but I loved seeing support on his Galio last game.
Yeah, Supporter did an incredible job. Supporter's also just incredible at basically everything he plays. And here he's gonna be in a bit of a weird spot because there
It's a lane
aren't.
swap.
Sorry.
This is a lane swap. Yeah, Archie's gone down to the bot side with supporter. Kinemon is gonna be up against Cat sitting in mid.
Yeah. So because of the way that this has worked out, they've decided to send the mid laner down there, and that's why it's a bit of a weird spot, because they're kind of treating this Ziggs as an AD carry. Archie's not going to be able to contribute to side lanes as much as you normally want a Ziggs to do. Normally your Ziggs roams out of mid and throws some bombs into the side lanes, or roams out of mid to participate in a gank in the side lanes. They're instead putting all of the mid lane gold onto Kinemon and leaving Archie kind of in the side lane for late game, which is an interesting pivot from Buriram. I won't say whether or not I think it's good or bad yet, because I simply don't know why they've done it, and I likely won't until I see how it's playing out.
Sure, I mean, they're starting to get a little bit of control around, but and Archie is a safe lane that he can work from, so it's, I mean, looking fine in the early game. Neither side's really able to pull too much of an advantage, but
Well,
looking at the
match it.
compositions. Sorry?
EVOS just matched in.
Yeah.
They take the Varus into Kai'Sa mid, and they've brought G4 down to dual Archie.
And it kind of feels like with how BRU are going about this, you know, it seems like they are going to continue with having this late game kind of carry in the form of Kinemon. And so this early game is kind of beneficial to them.
Yeah, and it maybe is just because the Kai'Sa can survive the Ahri duel much better than the Ziggs. Ziggs versus Ahri kind of sucks as a matchup. So maybe that's the entirety of the thought that goes into it. But either way, I think Buriram is winning off of this exchange because Kai'Sa mid is very viable. It certainly provides a ton of damage. And even though EVOS with this roam have got the Varus mid, Varus is going to have a critical problem in that it's really easy to gank a Varus. It's really easy to catch a Varus out. And so there's going to be constant attempts to do that from Buriram, whereas this Kai'Sa can kind of watch out for herself in a way that not very many AD carries can.
But EVOS Esports are doing a very good job by ensuring Rich is nearby, so they are able to prevent that gank coming across easily. Support is going to match that as well, and I think EVOS Esports made a great adaptation by batting away the Twisted Fate from Archie.
Yeah. No, overall, both these teams are matching each other very well. Archie being shifted over to the Ziggs. He's very good on the character, but he doesn't have the same sideline pressure. And right now, with the way this is played out, you can see EVOS actually benefiting from both lane matchups, because they get the Ahri hard shoving down bottom, being able to win the matchup versus Archie. And in the mid lane, Cat Satan's exercising his range advantage versus Kinemon. And we haven't seen any jungle presence or roam presence from Buriram to punish the low mobility Varus. A Vietnamese team, for instance, would just instantly have done that. But Buriram are a little slower paced, and so they don't take advantage of it in time. And now we're into our first objective fights with the gold advantage skewing slightly over to EVOS.
Absolutely, and it seems that BRU are going into this in a much slower pace, not willing to commit as badly. Well, I say that, but the fight still breaks down. Shiva flashes the wall after confirming the Dragon Kinemon, repositions back with the Killer Instinct, dodges past some of the damage, but was still in the pit, gets away though.
Yeah, I don't know about that Killer Instinct. Noel up top.
Oh, locked in the Cataclysm, they're
I don't
trying
know
to hold
about that
Veldis in
Cataclysm.
place. The turret is taking him down, but he has enough HP and the Gargoyle Stone Blade.
Just a truly bewildering series of affairs.
They're not quite over here,
Shiva's gonna go
TJ.
for one more. They'll get that kill. So first turret of the game falls to EVOS, meaning they win the exchange. And Buriram are going to be down a sizable chunk of gold as a result. And I think EVOS's ability to just put Buriram on the back foot during the early game has really paid off here. This will be, if Shiba goes for this play versus G4, that will be their first aggressive play of the game. Let's watch it.
They're gonna try and maybe get something done. G4 survives with the flash though. He's gonna use the Spirit Rush as well. It's 2 summons committed. But I have to say, TJ, I'm not a huge fan of Vi's going into Ahri and Camille kind of compositions. I mean, looking back at it, you know, they picked the Vi pretty late in, or pretty early on, and so it seems like, you know, EVOS Esports just responded really well to the Vi pick.
Yeah, and you can see there that it's just so hard for, I suppose, any jungler, but especially a Vi, to gank someone like an Ahri. It's just not happening, I'm gonna be real with you. And the advantage that Vi gives you, the reason a lot of people pick Vi, is because she's a really solid frontliner. She's really good at finding engage for compositions that don't have a lot of engage. But who do you engage onto versus EVOS here? Because the only real answer is you want the buy to either counter Thipper's dive or get access to Cat Safe. And you're not going to reach Cat Safe in this team.
VODs, he walks into the wrong spot, gets caught out, into the wrong jungle. It might be his own, but it's been taken over by BRU, infestated by this red team. And EVOS Esports flash committed after flash just to get away.
And so, I don't know, there's two sides of it. You're not going to get through that front line of Valdez, and you see that there. Buriram can't access anyone behind Valdez. But also, they have enough damage to fight that front line.
I love that response, DJ. You're just like, yeah, well, I mean, it kind of happened, and here we have it once again. The re-engage coming across from BRU. Valdez now back in it with the snowball charging up against Noel. Looks for it, drifts across the wall, flashed away from the Java to survive. But it's a nice re-engage from EVOS to get something back.
Yeah, they get a little bit of their pride back. We'll see if they can get this turret as well. It's so hard to hold on to turrets. As Buriram, I think, agree with our assessment. They go, wow, we've really been forced onto the back foot. We played this early game very slow, and they take things up a notch. We start seeing Archony access the map and be used as that Ziggs, just pure turret sieger. I do want to flag, because we had a conversation about this yesterday. This is a Luden's Echo first Ziggs, so he's going to have a little bit more poke damage during this early game. And overall, Buriram is stabilized very well out of EVOS' tricksy, topsy-turvy early few moments, and we're in a dead even game state, headed to a late game that honestly is also pretty dead even.
You have a couple of differences, but similar kind of approaches as well. And BRU, I mean, they're playing a composition that we've already seen work in Game 1. Now with some adaptation by EVOS Esports, we'll see if they're able to respond adequately. And I have to say that this Nunu, despite its incredibly high win rate, doesn't seem to have as much impact in this game.
It's harder to measure a Nunu's impact. I think it actually may be the deciding factor of this game, because you're essentially getting a second support character that also does the damage in the late game, also does the damage of a solid top lane character. He's going to be able to be that bruiser in the front line of fights, denying entry to a lot of front-to-back characters. It's very hard to get past a Nunu if you're Noel or if you're Shiba.
G4 starting to charge up, making use of that always movement
There he
speed.
goes.
Valdez coming in with the snowball. You can't outsmite a Nunu, so they're just keeping away, keeping it an arm's length away from the dragon and taking down the Nunu first. Good damage coming in with the killer NC to confirm that kill, but you've dashed into the charm from G4. Unfortunately, no follow-up damage. They can't take him down, but it's jungler for jungler across both sides.
And you see, again, both sides of it, you can't get past Valdez. He's such a big kind of linebacker in these fights, but Buriram also have enough damage at this pace to just fight front to back and burn through Valdez. So that's the discussion we need to have. At what point do EVOS come online such that they can contest a front to back team fight? And as these team fights go to Buriram, of course, those numbers get harder and harder. What is kind of the angle back in for EVOS? Well, it's this game state, it's this lane state. They're incredibly good on the map, they're incredibly good at generating efficient farm, and you can watch as Cat Satan completes his Muraman and goes full lethality around the second item. He's going to be really scary in slower team fights where EVOS can set up and poke out. They'll use Cat Satan to do damage and wait for G4 to find a big charm to start the fight. And if Buriram go for those slower team fights, match EVOS front to back, they're going to be in trouble.
But I'm super concerned for Cat sitting here, TJ, because there's no easy target for BRU to go for, except for this Varus probably. I mean, you can't really lock down G4. Your Tipper is hard to lock down as well. Valdez and Rich are tanky, so Cat sitting just seems like the de facto target after that.
I'll tell you the good news, though. Buriram aren't a very aggressive team. And, you know, this is why I made a reference earlier to a Vietnamese region team who I think would be creating a ton of trouble for Cat Satan. But Buriram tend to play fairly respectful outside of lanes, and the dive that they've drafted is very front to back. If you look at Shiba, if you look at Noel, if you look at Supporter, who are all the characters who can go in, they need to get past this Nunu in order to access backline.
Well, they don't have to get past the Nunu if G4 is going to dash up in front of him. Easy pick up there for BRU, and, well, it's a very nice bait. Look at how long they were waiting to brush that, TJ.
Yeah, I don't know if it's crazier that that worked or crazier that they tried it, Buriram just stay in the top lane for 2 actual minutes to see what happens.
Hey, it works out, so the result
Oh,
pans
what
out
a
well
catch.
for them. Over to the back, they have to deal with Tipper coming in now, locking down Kinemon, who's gone golden, trying to buy some time. Killer instinct reposition to the back, but they still need to deal with Valdez. It's difficult because you have the Kaisa with the Camille chasing after, taking him down. Shiba returns one, but it's the marksman gone. Noel joins in the fight with the flag and drag, but Rich is right around the corner, still far enough away. Flashes on top of the hunting brute, but
He
won't be able to
didn't
get it in
over.
time to get a return kill there.
And you see what EVOS' teamfight wants to look like there on their initial engage. A really good sync-up, particularly of the Hextech ultimatum out of Thipper and Valdez's absolute zero, because you can lock people into the AoE of the Nunu. So EVOS have a really good teamfight, but Buriram haven't had to face it front to back. There they get a little bit of a weird reset where Cat Satan and G4 are completely split for the front line of Rich, Valdez, and Thipper. And Buriram are just able to get Noel into the gap. And pay attention to that, because that's of course how Noel won the last game for Buriram, is his ability on Jarvan in particular to be that secondary tank, to be that secondary support, and worm his way into the middle of teamfights, splitting EVOS' line.
And we're kind of seeing exactly why Camille has been so highly banned in a lot of these games, because of how effective it is at dealing with these marksmen that are rotating around the map. I say that, but look at that, they're going on to Valorous once again. You talk about how they have to get past this Nunu well. They're looking to invalidate him from the beginning. Absolute Zero comes across. Look at how much he's healed up. Noel trying to buy time, trying to draw attention away from the rest of his team. Rich has gone down in that process. BRU will find one and unable to take down Noel.
You do again see, you can't get past Valdez. G4, Cat Satan can just sit behind it. But you also again see Buriram working around that restriction, finding Rich at the very side of the team fight.
Oh, that's a nice taunt. Then might be able to find Tipper here. Okay, Tipper is gonna go golden. He buys some time. He has to catch the ultimate, so God could dodge away from a decent amount of damage. Captain Rain comes across. There we have it. The Camille ultimate committed to try and dodge away, but still will go down.
An excellent use of the Hextech ultimatum, but here comes G4.
Kind of doing doom and gloom for EVOS Esports, because you've already lost 2 and now looking to lose G4 as well. Nice damage to return back. They are unable to take down the 2 carries from EVOS Esports.
Heroic from Valdez to save the life of Cat Satan, to save the life of G4 there. But without Thipper in these fights, oh my god. Without Thipper in these fights, you're going to see a lot of Buriram members get very low and no Buriram members die. This is why Varus Ziggs is very popular, because the Varus can knock people low and the Ziggs can very reliably finish them off. But without a Ziggs or something that get over the top of the front line in this team fight, you're relying on G4 and Thipper to finish off people that are getting poked by Cat Satan. And we're seeing EVOS really struggle to execute on that. They're really struggling to find the synced up team fight that operates like that, where Cat Satan can poke in over the top of Valdez, and then Thipper can go in and clean up those kills. During that fight, I think Archony, Kinemon, and Noel all went down to like 1 HP and just left, just walked away, because they weren't under serious pressure from EVOS.
And what we've kind of been focusing around these skirmishes, Buriram United have found themselves 3 dragons during this time, and maybe collecting a life from Noel as well. Being locked down by the Hextech ultimatum is a death sentence for this Javan, who's put Tipper in a cage of his own as well. The turret's still coming in. The last one will not come across. Tipper will survive.
That was a second away.
Ooh, no flash committed either.
Nerves of steel. Good catch, Grandin. Thipper did in fact have his flash there, and he opted not to flash out. He was confident he would survive. And that is incredible. Players knowing those kinds of timings.
Honestly, just, wow. Impressive stuff that we're seeing from EVOS right now. And, well, I mean, they get to play against each other so much in their own region, in their own Icon series. Going back into this one, I mean, there was some expectations there for EVOS Esports to just run away with the game, but BRU have come in bigger. I know Omo has been kind of preaching to the choir about how BRU is such a good team. And I think we're seeing that in this series as well.
I mean, this matchup did go very late regionally. Both these teams are incredibly good and incredibly closely matched. I want to talk about this late game, because we do have a couple of advantages for Buriram. I've talked a lot about the win condition, the kind of fight EVOS want to take. Buriram do have a couple of things going for them, and one of them is this. They're being really strong in the side lane. It's always going to be hard to catch the Camille You can see them trying to do this now. And Buriram have to devote so many resources to trying to slow that play down. The other thing that's going to be going on in this late game is Buriram have Archony, who can just shred turrets. So if EVOS ever make a mistake in their map rotations, turrets are just going to vanish.
I'm looking at a good amount of poke from EVOS Esports here, though. They're really putting the pressure, piling it on BRU. Like you mentioned, while they may be able to take turrets where they find these windows, EVOS Esports, well, it just seems like the macro is looking better. They pulled Noel into the mid lane, and as a result of that, Tipper has collected that bot side turret.
Yeah, this is what's known as a 4-1 strategy, where you have 4 players playing in mid and 1 player playing in the sidelines. And EVOS execute it perfectly. They're holding their mid turret, and they've got Sepper just poking it around the side. You can do this very easily with Camille. You also see it with Twisted Fate, and occasionally you'll see something like a Jarvan try and execute this as well, but obviously you need the teleport spell to do that. The big reason that Camille can do it, Fiora can do it, is because they have so much built-in mobility in their kits, so it's very difficult to punish them because they can always run away if they realize that there's people coming in on them.
Next dragon comes up, it's that Elder Cloud Drake, not Air Drake. Gotta be specific, especially with TJ here.
Yeah.
So don't want to get called out for it. And Buriram United, they're onto that 3rd Drake already. They get this 4th one. I mean, they've been able to maintain control on neutral objectives despite the Nunu.
If Buriram get this, it would give them so much true damage that I think they would just win this game. So they very, very badly need this Elder Drake. And they're going to start trying to position around it because I think they're also aware that EVOS have this really good late game team fight, this really good late game 4-1 split push setup. It's scary for Buriram right now. This Elder Drake represents their best chance of winning this game. So they're committing to starting it.
Tipper's not even in this fight, TJ.
Yeah, Tipper's all the way up in the top lane. He doesn't have a teleport. Valdez doesn't have vision.
Oh no, he jumps in. Is this going to be enough though? Coming in with the heroic entrance to get some good knockdown. G4 is going to flash over the wall, get away in time. In the meantime, Archly will find a tower in the mid lane. Tipper split pushing, but they're onto the Elder Drake.
And Valdez is still in the area. This is warded.
They have to block this. They have to stop this. G4 coming back in to get a killing spree. It's Kinemon that comes in big, comes in clutch. They're back onto the dragon, but it's going to be the inhibitor traded away. We'll have to see how much more Tipper's able to find. Valdez flashes forward, but he's stuck right by the side of the wall. Won't be able to steal it. And BRU find a 4th dragon with supporter. Buying more time, buying more space. Over by the side. Might be able to take down Cat Satan. He's drawing attention away. You have to worry about Tipper. He's moving on to the Nexus, but it's gone back in time, stalled out enough, bought enough space, as Shiba flashes onto the Camille to take him down as well.
EVOS don't feel comfortable stepping into that team fight, so they play through the split lane strategy. They try and extend the dragon fight itself while they push in the sideline, while they use Tipper to their advantage. But Buriram match them. They outplay them every step of the way on the dragon fight. Noel going over the wall to back up Kinemon and dropping a Cataclysm on top of Valdez meant that Valdez had to flash out of the Cataclysm, and he couldn't flash over the wall into the dragon pit, and Buriram got the dragon uncontested thanks to that movement, thanks to that brilliant play from Noel, who now has won 2 games in a row off of his late game, just individual skill play on this tank Jarvan. I say one because Buriram, with that Elder, should have the game in the bag. EVOS will not have enough damage to match these team fights unless they play them perfectly. Front to back, Cat Satan, G4 behind Valdez, throwing out damage. That is the only way EVOS can win these late game team fights.
And it's up to BRU to now put on the pressure. They got the Baron. They just have to apply it onto EVOS Esports. Bring the fight to them. There's an inside track available for Tipper. Unfortunately, it's going to be too difficult to maintain that, as BRU have identified that as a potential weakness. Look at where they're set up here, TJ. They're waiting for EVOS Esports to overstep and for Shiva to refine his entry.
There we go. Pressure into the side lanes. These turrets melting under the gaze of Archony.
Oh! Ooh.
Wow!
He might just get one shot.
That's
coming in. They managed to find the first catch on the G4, looking to take down Valdez, who's not going to be enough. He's just a lone noodle. He's tanky, but he's not going to be able to stop them from sieging into the base.
And once again, Buriram, with a late game objective fight, have turned the game, have won the game.
They have to take down Kinemon. This is their only shot, the only chance, but it's not enough. And BRU take...
Earlier, he's been doing oh so good. Rich, on the other hand, they have been forcing the Gragas pick. I mean, Skimmy, what are your thoughts on that?
Not a fan. Not a fan. I mean, one game, it didn't look too impressive. Perhaps choked a little bit in some of those clutch moments, but he could have held his own. Second game, still felt like a bit of a passenger along for the ride. Would love to see him switch things up. I mean, the Rakan is there if you want to sort of still be that engaged, heavy support. Obviously, doesn't give you displacement, but the same overarching theme, right, of turning the tide of that fight. If not, just default back to those enchanters. You know, draft something strong here for Cat Satan to pop off with. Play the Nami, play the Lulu, play the Janna, whatever it may be. Because the Gragas right now doesn't seem to be it. So I would be mortified if they look at, run it back and lock it in again.
Yes. Sorry, it's finally, we were talking about this off cast, right? That maybe perhaps don't prioritize the Camille, get the Galio for yourself because you can put it on G4. Remember, we mentioned this before. If the mid laners are doing so well as carries, as assassins, you relegate them to tank. G4 performed so well every single time he has held this Galio, even during the Summer Super Cup when they went up against one team. It was their game-winning engage and the champion-winning fight. Now, Buriram, on the other hand, going for this Orianna, so I'm not gonna be surprised if Shiba goes for a Rengar with the cat ball composition where they can sneakily set up the shockwaves for BRU.
Yeah, would make sense. And it's also another denial, right, of that Camille, given that Fippa is playing out of his mind right now. So EVOS are going to think, okay, if the Rengar is a threat, what do we take to try and match it? Okay, well, I guess we're just going to see ourselves a support Galio if we're going to run it back with a third game of this Ahri. He's just so keen to get these picks, and maybe a little bit uncharacteristic in that second game there, the scoreline, and what, he was down 5k in comparison in this mid lane. So really needs to try and find some form in a crucial moment.
Yeah, so I think the biggest question is, the Ahri is the key here, just because, you know, Buriram United always having to rely on Kinemon for that late game, so it's going to be G4's job to eliminate that big threat. So now Buriram, curious if this is going to be a Lulu Cat Satan, or not support or Lulu, as we haven't really seen the Kaisa Lulu combo just yet. And Gragas is still open for the taking. It could be just a swap of support picks so far. And there it is, the Valdez Fiora. We've been waiting for it, and it has arrived if it is going to be locked in. So the scaling jungler now for the side of Valdez and the possible 1-3-1 setup during the later phases of the game. But don't let that fool you. EVOS would still love to fight the early 5v5s, especially now we're going to get the classic 2v2 matchup, or 1v1 matchup. 2v2 matchup at the duo lane, which is the Corki versus the Kaisa. We'll see if supporter will go Gragas.
That is the big question in my mind right now. What do they look to try and lock in place to break up the party? Perhaps the comeback material for a reverse sweep that EVOS would be so desperate for. Will it be, as you say, one of those bruises, or is it going to be more of the Lulu? Yeah, I like it. I mean, it basically says you've got one goal in mind, hit a charm, hit a hook, or hit any kind of bleed, and blow up that one key target. A wild growth from Lulu nullifies all of that. So I'm liking what Buriram are running back here for game 3.
Immediately ensure that survives and sustains himself as much as he can, and therefore, you know, the 4-minute mark, fight 5v5 is still available. And I gotta say though, Buriram has this comp in the bag. EVOS Esports though, they have to get a pick.
Oh my gosh, Rico, I believe in your power right now. I am such a believer. That was amazing. Thanks so much, Rico. Well, thanks to Rico, we are now about to step into game 3. Casters, take it away.
Riku's a mime with the power to fix this stream, Grafton. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do either. I'm just gonna pretend like, you know, this is an entire Riku show. She's not the one running things from the background, the Shadow Overlord, because we're going into game number 3. It's the 3rd game in this set, and BRU are leading 2-0 TJ. Who would have thunk it?
I mean,
some people would have. It's a close series.
I wouldn't have said Buriram would be up 2-0, and if they clean the sweep this series, it will be an upset, to be clear. But this was also supposed to be a very close series. Let's talk about this game 3, and we can talk about why I think EVOS actually are going to make this series keep going. It's what you're seeing right now. It's G4 in the middle of the map. He is the early game for EVOS. He's kind of the only early game on the map. And if you're an EVOS fan, you want to see G4 take this Ahri and get into lane with it. Shut down Kinemon, especially shut down Archony. That's why they put Archony down in the bottom lane, so that he doesn't just get bullied by this Arik.
Pulling attention away from, well, just having G4 kind of crush Archony in the mid lane, you know, they're trying to funnel Kinemon up again. And it feels like EVOS Esports has doubled back a little bit to the similar idea that they did in game number 1, where they bring Katsinen back on a big carry here.
Yeah, I mean, we have a late game that probably bends towards Buriram, because unlike game number 1, there isn't the same just turbo tank frontline for Cat Satan. So late game probably bends back towards Buriram because they have both Kinemon and Archony, who are incredible team fighting mages and AD carries in the late game, whereas EVOS, okay.
I mean, these charms have just been so on point, TG.
He needs
2
the
for 2,
kills,
and
though.
Kinemon's put low to start. You see the rotation coming through. Rich is right there as well. Supporter will block him though.
Right, so Buriram probably win like the hyper late game though. That's like post 20 minutes if they can get that.
But they got this early game. They got G4 and they're making it happen in the mid side. VODs comes in, dashes in with the mid post. Won't need it. It's still first blood for EVOS Esports.
There it is. Exactly what EVOS needed to do to start this game, because that's the caveat. If Buriram get post 20 minutes, they get Orianna, they get Kai'Sa online, they have this Lulu, plus the Jarvan tank from the top line, I think they probably win this game. But EVOS have the tools to roll this game during the first 20 minutes. And if they put Buriram behind, then Buriram don't actually have a very good team to fight from behind. Because Orianna doesn't do enough sustained damage to be relevant if she's not able to really hurt people with her shockwave. If this Orianna falls behind, it's going to be a very long time till her shockwave, till her sustain is actually hurting people in a way that's not true for, say, a Ziggs. And when you're talking about supported, when you're talking about the Lulu, if the Lulu is amping people up with wild growth and they're not able to capitalize on that, Lulu's basically not a champion. Lulu's not adding any value. If you spend the wild growth and it doesn't result in a one-team fight, then you would have been better off having a tank who could take those hits in the front line. So Buriram are in trouble if EVOS start this game with a strong lead. They've already got first blood. Let's see what else they can do in the first kind of 10-15 minutes.
And DJ, that's kind of the trap that a lot of teams fall into when they play for a supportive and chanter type support as well as a mage kind of bot side, right? It's the idea that, hey, we just make it out of laning phase, even things will be okay. But then they kind of neglect to see, like, well, what's the overall map state? Because they have a couple of champions that can still dive you, know, if they get ahead instead. And so it's important to, across the map, to also make sure Tipper and VODs just aren't running away with the game.
Yeah. And you also, I think, specifically with Lulu, she's so reliant on other people being able to follow up on what she's doing, right? If you polymorph someone, that's great. But if nobody dies as a result of that polymorph because your team doesn't have enough damage, then I don't know, it's not even a very effective form of CC. They can still move around. So there's a very distinct onus on Buriram to do exactly what they're doing and try and contest the early game. I wouldn't be going for a fight here, but they're doing a good job being here.
They start things off with that polymorph, but like you mentioned, you don't have the damage to take anybody down, then what does it matter? They jump in either way. Shiba's come in big with the Cataclysm blocking off EVOS Esports. They're unable to dive them deeper in the jungle, but you still have to deal with Tipper, who've come in with the first knockup. You still have Noel, but he's playing a tanky Java, not that much damage, cannot take them down. 2 more to EVOS.
And there's the EVOS early game they needed. It was a little dicey. Noel went a little hard. It was dangerous. But VODs manages to clean up the Rift Herald. EVOS win the team fight. They've got 2,000 in the bank as the lead, and that lead is going to grow once they throw down the Rift Herald. This is what they need to do. This is a very strong start for EVOS.
Very strong start indeed, and this is exactly the doomsday scenario for BRU. I mean, we talked about it so much in the early game. If they're allowing them to get ahead, we saw what happened with Kinemon as well. I mean, we don't even have to think so much about the others, just Katsinen, and he's already coming for 1 full item.
Yeah, and do a little gold comparison in the mid lane as well. And look at what happened to Archony, because he was stuck down in the bottom lane with slower farm, not able to get out into the early fights as well, dying in the early fights. Or not dying, sorry, getting forced out of the early fights by the focus. And that means that he essentially died in the early fights and didn't get any credit for anything. They didn't find any kills. And he's broke. He's like me, Grandin.
That's not entirely true, TJ. Well, we'll see if EVOS Esports are able to get a little bit more gold lying in their pockets. They find the charge in the bomb site with the Rift Tower, a little bit more localized gold there, and a good response from BRU. But look at EVOS still stepping aggressively here, though.
Now watch this dance round the side. If we see big CC from Rich, if he finds big, stun.
What are they looking to try and go for? I mean, it's the re-engage. Rich finds him with a two-man taunt to boot. They're taking down supporter first, but they've locked down G4. He's stuck under turret, but you're stuck in there with EVOS Esports, who found two there as well.
Can Noel save the turret? No. Now he's in trouble.
Absolutely in trouble here, TJ. Noel's gonna have to face off against VODs, against Tipper, who have become massive in this game. It's doom and gloom for BRU in game number 3 as EVOS go 6-1.
Rich just sits there at the recall, knowing his team's got it. I'm the support. I don't want to take the kill, he says. Kills will go over to EVOS. A little bit sloppy that G4 died. If I'm giving notes, if I'm being real critical, G4 shouldn't have been in position to get shut down. It was very well played by Shiba to get that kill. And of course, because that took so long, there was a trade. And this top lane turret did fall. I believe that gold mostly went on to Kinemon, which is very good state of affairs. Buriram really want Kinemon to be a carry, so it's not all bad. But I also don't want to paint that as an even trade, because it was really bad for Buriram. EVOS continuing to accelerate their early game. They get the first turret kill, and they grow this kill lead drastically. They're going to be so far ahead for the next 10 minutes easily. And if Buriram want to come back into this game, they need to either find a miracle fight, or make this game somehow last 20 minutes and come back at death's door with a beautiful team fight, Orianna, Shockwave, everything goes wrong.
And EVOS Esports continue on with the tempo, continue with the pressure to get the mid lane turret. And I mean, while we're doing a stock take on everything, you look at EVOS Esports. They got the Rift Tower, they got the Cloud Drake. Granted, for BRU, this is probably the least impactful dragon to lose, but it still hurts them. And EVOS Esports, well, they've just been able to run away with this early game. And for a team that's really only had this one early game champion in G4, they're doing a lot with it. Now here we have it again. Rich has come in and given VODs a killing streak. Put this guy on a scholarship, honestly.
Oh my god. Shiba will be in trouble here as well, as VODs, Rich, and G4 stay in the area. They're not even needed. Wow.
TJ, I can't tell if you're impressed or unimpressed. I mean, what's happening here? What's going on in your head right now?
It's just working. It's just EVOS have showed up to work, and they're
chugging
doing
along.
the job. You know, there are some people that are really standout performers. You're like, wow, you're going above and beyond. EVOS aren't doing that. I'm not going to lie. They're showing up to work on time. Not early, but on time. They're doing the job they're required to do, and that's going to get them the game unless Buriram do something absolutely remarkable. The only place I even see that happening is maybe Kinemon just goes huge. But failing Kinemon getting a pentakill, this game is pretty much over.
Yeah, and this was the team that we were looking towards. I mean, both of them have the best players in the world in their respective positions. And it just seems like EVOS Esports have finally come online. They've woken up the idea. They're coming back in and go take down Noel.
This is the first draft I liked from EVOS. This is the first time we left the draft, and I was like, oh wow, I think this is really in EVOS's wheelhouse to execute this game. Because playing through G4, okay.
I mean, 10-1 at this point. He looks like every fight that you take, you're gonna lose. BRU wills to commit there. Shockwave comes across, but Cat Satan takes virtually no damage from it.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by Orianna's pretty worthless if she's behind. And this game was just, hey, we're going to play through G4's early game. We're going to play through the fact that he can land charms, Rich can find engage. And if you're telling me, hey, our game plan for EVOS is that G4 finds charms and Rich finds engage, that's a pretty good game plan. That's a game plan I'll sign on to any day of the week. Whereas previously, it was a lot on Cat Satan winning fights, Cat Satan being the key carry of this team. And that's not been how EVOS have played historically. Cat Satan's always been an element of the team, but he's been an insurance policy. So the earlier two games where EVOS were relying on him to take over the game and carry it felt a little bit uncomfortable to me.
Well, goodbye, Noel. I mean, he tries to get away, but will
horrific.
fall to Tipper eventually. This is revenge of the Baron lane. Tipper's had a rough first two games, while the third one is not going to be the same here, TJ. And, well, very frankly, I have to say, you know, what feels like the difference to me is supporter being on this Lulu.
Yeah, I'm not a giant fan of Lulu into this draft, but they needed. Okay.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just giving it to you. They finally find something back. They take down VODs here. But is this going to be enough to pull them back in, to hold them until that 20-minute mark?
No. Sorry, was that rhetorical, or was I supposed to answer that?
I would take the answer, yeah. That's a nice 4-man calculus when they come across, though, with the flag and drag as well, but he'd like the damage to follow through with. They've taken down Sheba and Arch, and he's not even alive for these fights, man.
It's like watching cheese run into a grater, you know? There's just nothing that's gonna happen. I don't know what the expected result is. The cheese gets grated.
I love that expression, TJ. Can I use it for my next fight?
Sure.
Alright, there we have it. Well, EVOS Esports, they're going to stop the Baron now, but it's looking a little bit risky. They're dropping down low quickly. And they don't have a Lulu or anybody off the light to keep them topped up, so they're going to back away. BRU, at the very least, still holding on to their chances for this game. It's 11 minutes in, almost 12. It's 15 to 2, 12,000 ahead for EVOS.
I want to kind of use this game as a data point, because a lot of the time people will come into streams like this and they'll be like, what? This game isn't close. This team must be terrible. Okay. 2v3. Can they do it?
Well, they're going to run away because they know Rich is right around the corner as well. They hit a block this. They're going to get the taunt. Misses it. Nice dash away from the survivors of BRU here.
Okay. So, a lot of times people look at scorelines like this and they make very negative judgments. Buriram are really good, and I don't even think their draft this game is especially bad. It's just that they pinned the entire game on G4 and Rich not dominating the early game, on G4 and Rich not snowballing early leads into Valdez, into Cat Satan. And EVOS were able to execute on. So, even though this game looks really one-sided, it came down to a very even, 50% odds of can G4 execute this really aggressive thing? Can he find early kills? And the answer was yes, but that's player play. This isn't a game that was lost in draft. This isn't a game that is a telling story of Buriram being much worse. Like, that's not what's going on here. This is actually two teams drafting reasonable drafts and playing very hard, and EVOS just being able to execute on some remarkable early aggression, as they had to win this game.
And it's turned out well for EVOS Esports. They invested heavily in this third game draft, and well, it looks like they've been able to execute it well enough. They find a catch onto Sheba, who's had to flash away, committed that summoner spell. Nice shockwave, disengages for the rest of the team, but BRU still playing on their back foot.
Yeah, I'm a little worried for EVOS, like in the back of my mind. I'm thinking about the timer, because you can see Kinemon's damage is like coming online. So
okay, G4 is gonna go in aggressive here though. Rich uses the ultimate, but he's back in the Baron pit. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. Shiba's trying to survive. Will get taken down in the midst of 4 on the side of EVOS. Noel's walk back in now, looking for the flag and drive. Misses out against Tipper. Pulls him into the Cataclysm, into the cage, but he gets pulled back by the upper hand. Here we have it. Kinemon eyes on this carry. The burden of carry on this Kai'Sa, but she's running into a greater. And BRU will fall back against EVOS.
Kinemon's so good. I don't think he's died yet this game. Oh no, he died once. But it's still remarkable. Kinemon and Archini aren't out of this game, and that serves as a reminder of it. Buriram definitely can still turn this game if we go to that 20-minute mark, like I was saying. And I do think that's hard, but EVOS are kind of playing this mid-game a little bit slow, Grandin. The hot pot's still boiling, and that's a little bit worrying, frankly, if you're an EVOS fan.
Because you're simmering it here, TJ. It's up to a simmer. You want to see the boil, but EVOS Esports, they're not impatient. You know, you let the frogs sit in the pot.
Yeah, but if you're in the next room, you're starting to smell some good cooking, you know? And that's a little bit worrying. That's Buriram kind of coming online.
Still a ways away from that, but we're starting to see exactly what you mentioned there, TJ. Tipper is now stepping in aggressively against 2, and yet BRU are stepping away, giving respect to Tipper, who's faced off against the 2 of them, ignoring any potential threat. Flashes forward, won't be able to find anything. Shiva's going to come in now. They're looking towards the Baron, down to 2,000, so they have to make a play now, have to commit to it, have to try and steal it away. It's going to go over to Velda, securing it instead. They come back in, so Wild Grove get the knockup back onto G4. Kinemon's dashing in. It's looking to take that down, but Catson has way too much damage as a double gunner comes across. Looking at a third. EVOS Esports will find the teammates.
And Buriram had to stop that Baron. They couldn't do it. And so EVOS get the wipe. They'll end this game with about 5 minutes to spare before Buriram come online. and they will take their first game in this series, meaning we've got a series on our hands as EVOS are 1-2.
And it was surprising to see TJ. I mean,
Noel, by the way, in that earlier game, didn't exactly have a great game. We didn't see he didn't get any kills,
Yeah.
he didn't get any assists, or barely got any assist in. But I do want to ask a question. You know, we talked a lot about supporter and Rich actually because we have such a focus on the Dragon Lane duo. Should this game be a support priority here?
I mean, it looks to be the case, right? Galio's gone, and that seems to be the champion that offers these two so much. So if you don't ban the Galio, it just means that the Brom is let through. Supporter's going to snatch that one up without dropping a beat. He loves the champion, and he looks very, very proficient on it. Quickly, just to touch on your point, though, as you mentioned in the top lane, I think it's been fascinating to watch this battle between Thipper and Noel, because in the first two games, Noel was losing lane, but he was contributing so much more in these team fights with these beautiful cataclysms and knockups. But in that third game, he wasn't able to win the lane, and he wasn't actually able to offer anything in the team fight. So they're going to run it back with this matchup once again, and it's just fascinating to see how it unfolds.
Exactly, that's why, right? If you lock in a Jarvan 4, you're going to be relying heavily on your carries to follow up with the damage. Even if you set, if there's no damage, there's really no point at all. So I really like EVOS just snatching the Corki right away, because once you lock in a Braum, usually you're expecting Kinemon to lock in a Kai'Sa as well for the 2v2. This means Buriram doesn't have to lane swap. They can play comfortably in the 2v2, and EVOS now defaulting to this Gragas, which could still potentially be flexed towards G4, considering that, again, he has played utility, he has played engage for the squad. Valdez again falling back into this Fiora. It has worked wonders previously as well. But what are the other options for EVOS for Rich? Because again, he had a shaky performance in the Gragas, so maybe, just maybe, this time around is different.
They're going to do it again, aren't they? They're going to say, look, we've wiped off the curse. You know, 2 games running it back as a Gragas. I'm feeling good. I played a game of Galio. It's been banned away. I'm going to do it one more time. I feel like, you know, the good luck charm is around us. And I hope so for his sake, because, you know, you've made sure that this bot lane matchup now is going to be as exciting as ever. Galio removed, Brom locked in instead, and a Gragas that needs to be on point. We were critical of him because he felt like a bit of a passenger. Looks so much better in that last game, but Riku, please, the Gragas can't end this way. Maybe the 3-1 curse is true. You've got the power to remove the technical pulls. You've got all the power. Maybe it's going to happen. Maybe you've broken it.
We'll see. I mean, I would love my prediction to still be right, but that's out of the window. So, as I voted 3-1 in favor of EVOS.
Yeah, well, we're going to see, you know, yes, we don't feel too comfortable with Rich on the Gragas, but they do have Valdez on the Fiora. We do know that that is an EVOS Esports special. Maybe that is their good luck charm coming into game number 4. Let's find out. Casters, over to you guys.
Thank you, Mika. And like you mentioned, it's the EVOS Esports special, it's the Buriram United special, it's the staple, it's what they go for, it's what we love to see. Don't you agree, TJ?
It's Wonder Bread. Other bread brands available.
I do not
normal.
understand that reference.
Yeah, they're not very good bread. See, now they won't think that they've sponsored. Anyway, it's normal plain bread. You put it in the toaster, you're gonna have a decent breakfast. And that's all that's going on here. Buriram are playing through their traditional style. They're going to wait till the late game, and their plan is to win the late game through Archony and Kinemon and their team fighting prowess. Over on EVOS, it's their bread and butter as well. G4 is going to push in through the early game, try and snowball Valdez and Thipper out ahead. If they go to late game, EVOS will rely on Catsatan's Corki to carry the late game team fighting. Here's the question, same as it was last game. Can they do that? Can G4 and Valdez start the early game strong? If they do, and Archony gets knocked behind, and Shiba gets knocked behind, this is hard mid-game, hard early game for Buriram to fight. But it's a little better than it was last game, because they've got the Braum for supporter instead of a Lulu, because they've got the Kai'Sa for Kinemon, which will allow them to fight a little bit early alongside that Braum.
And that's why I kind of felt like a disconnect between what BOU have been doing for the past 2 games and the 3rd game, where they brought in the Lulu, and it just seemed like not having supporter in some form of a tank, some form of a lineman, if you will, against EVOS Esports Engage. Like, we've seen him play the Galio 2 games in a row. It just was such a different take, a different look for BOU.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because it was either Lulu or Thresh were the 2 picks I was thinking through, because they needed some kind of tank, and Lulu isn't a tank, but she makes other characters a tank, so it's kind of the same thing. I say kind of because it's not and it's bad, but quote me on that. But it was interesting to me that Supporter didn't pull out the Thresh, because I kind of frankly expected Thresh to fulfill that role. He gets Braum here, and that's much stronger, that's much better at stalling out games. The big marker for me is going to be whether or not Buriram can contest early fights, whether or not Buriram can survive early fights, because that's, of course, where EVOS absolutely shattered them during Game 3 of this series.
Oh, here we have it. We're going into the arena.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a technical pause, unfortunately, as one of the players disconnected as we're loading in.
Right.
So I'm going to send things back over to the analyst desk for a hot second, as we have been told that they're ready to receive us and have a quick conversation about what has happened during that technical pause set up for the next couple of minutes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just been a good kind of run going into this one overall, and we're just making sure that everything is going to be all right going into this game, because it is that very important match, right? EVOS Esports have now been able to pull back, and this was a surprise for us because BRU, you know, the fact that they were able to take those first two games were an impressive one. EVOS, now we're starting to see them come back up the speed. You to mention last game, you finally saw a composition that you like from EVOS. I mean, how are you feeling about this second one as well?
This is the same thing, right? It's very functionally the same composition. They're going back to the bread and butter that made them in the first place. They're going back to the EVOS that was so successful regionally. And I have been a little bit surprised at the EVOS Esports eye that we've seen so far in this tournament. Their various performances have frankly looked a little underwhelming compared to what EVOS brought to bear during the Summer Super Cup. So this is, I think, a very good test of whether or not EVOS can still hit that key form that got them so far previously, or whether or not they're falling to the new blood, to Buriram's seeming ability to stall out any game and get into the late game.
And this is surprising to us because, you know, going into this, right, BRU, they kind of had a long journey through the competition. EVOS, they had an easier time. They were already seeded in, and so they were able to just play things out directly. BRU, to us, when they were drafted into Bracket A, we were surprised to see that, right? We were surprised to see them going into Group A looking like as strong as they were. Top of the group, were able to dominate things from that side of the bracket. Now going into this one, you know, it is interesting for us to see for sure.
Yeah, and Buriram plus EVOS is such a fun regional match, but it's also just the regional match. And one of the big storylines in this tournament is going to be, of course, the same as it was last tournament. What happens to these really powerful-looking Thai teams when they play against Vietnam, when they play against the Taiwan region? And so much of this is just harkens back to what happened during the Summer Super Cup, where, of course, EVOS went to the Grand Final, won the Grand Final, are the reigning champions, because we're seeing these very slow, very steady game plans versus teams that are also playing slow. You're looking at SBTC, they're not going to wait around. They're not going to let you play the Buriram style of play. So there's a lot of kind of question marks still floating above this game, if you will.
Sure. Let's see if there's any new adaptations or there's new growth. I mean, it's two teams that are very experienced against each other, playing against each other once again. And so there is an argument to be made that this is them going back towards their comfort picks, going back to a style that they are most comfortable with. And, well, if there's any chance for more growth and more adaptations, well, this is going to be it. As EVOS Esports, well, they're facing off against BRU, who are at match point 2-1. Let's get it.
2-1. Buriram one game away from upsetting the regional champions, from sending the reigning champions of Southeast Asia down to the lower bracket. EVOS on the other side, maybe starting their comeback. They would need 2 games themselves, of course, 2 in a row, to win this best-of-5 series.
It's revenge of Noel here, perhaps. Tipper's gonna force him out once again. Want to mention very quickly as well, Kinemon's gone down to the bottom lane. Archney has gone down to the bottom lane. Kinemon's gone to the mid lane as well.
Yeah, they keep doing this whenever Archney's playing Orianna into G4. Into G4's Ahri, because Orianna into Ahri, same reason as Twisted Fate into Ahri, it's just miserable. The Ahri can get up close and land charms, and you instantly die even at early levels. So it makes sense that they're putting the Kai'Sa there instead of the Orianna. And it makes sense that they're sending a lot of resources down bottom, because again, what EVOS want to do with this composition, with their default style of play, is get VODs and G4 out early as this roaming mid-jungle duo. That's what defines EVOS Esports. That's what defined their previous SEA championship.
But here's what I'm seeing right now, TJ. EVOS Esports have got control of the map early on. Tippo's winning his lane. G4 is shoving it out. VODs has got bot side Scuttle Crab and top side Scuttle Crab now. Both of those available for Fiora, who's likely going to become a massive threat in the mid late game, where Shiba, well, is kind of losing some tempo, especially since he had to make sure his bot lane was safe there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a caution here, though, which is that Buriram can stand to lose quietly for the first 15 minutes of this game. If they lose quietly and manage to keep the gold deficit, it's right now dead even, but if they manage to keep the gold deficit to within 1,000 or 2,000 for the entire game, then they probably win late game off of Orianna Kai'Sa teamfights. Orianna is that good if she's on parity, if she's at a decent point when we get to the late game. So
I'll have to look to the top side now because they found Tipper.
Wow.
And looking at the heal, they might be able to take down Noel. The barrier comes across, but still first blood to the Jarvan.
That's what I'm going to say. This is what Buriram really want to do. Get a little bit of extra credit on that assignment. Turn in the paper a day early, you know what I mean? And if they can find those kills, and they can be that guy that everyone hates in class, then all of a sudden their late game's looking very good. Here's EVOS trying to accelerate G4 though. He's going to take the tour down to the bottom lane for the second time this game. This is the second time this game that G4 and VODs have shown up down bottom. And it's the second time this game that Buriram have been ready for it and not given them any opportunities. Very good signs for BRU.
Freeing up a lot of space for the top side to get work done, while the bottom man playing towards the weak side because you are running that Orianna Braum don't necessarily have that fight potential early on. Like you mentioned, you get that 15-minute mark, then well, you're good to go. EVOS Esports now, they've been doing a good job enabling G4 to roam around, but they haven't been able to convert that into very much. As a result, though, you do see a substantial gold lead building for G4 over Archony.
And I do want to also give a pretty big amount of credit to the top lane, where Noel, or every game this series, has been in tank jail. He's just playing Jarvan, which is not a character that can do damage, and you might be like, man, Noel's such a talented player, it sucks to see him on characters that don't do damage, but he has actually just played this lane masterfully. He's been so careful, baited Thipper in multiple times, always been relevant in late game team fights. He's killing it on Jarvan duty.
Oh, absolutely, and in EVOS Esports, I think they've kind of acknowledged it as well. You've seen how aggressively Tipper has had to play. The fact that VODs is paying so much attention to that lane in many of their games. I mean, this game is a bit of an exception, though.
I mean, the fact that every time we've come up to that top lane, Thipper has been, like, trying to fight Jarvan underneath turret, and of course you can't do that, just speaks to how well Noel is playing that lane, how well he's controlling it. Here, though, he's had to leave lane because Dragon's up, and this might be the start of the fight. Of course, the winner of this runs away with an early game lead. EVOS want to pretty much wipe it. That's why they're forcing this fight, starting the action early. Buriram want to contest, but it's okay if they don't win this fight. And they're just looking for
Shiba's going to jump into the pit either way, but he's facing off against 5. Doesn't realize how many are going to be there waiting for him. Character doesn't come across. Shiba secures the dragon. They've taken it away. EVOS Esports running for the hills, running for their lives. Tipper going to get caught by the stun. The concussive blows will stop him in place. And EVOS Esports have to get away.
And that's huge for Buriram. That's huge for the upset. As Buriram have won the early game team fights. They've earned that extra credit I was talking about. And with kills onto VODs and Thipper, their second kill onto Thipper, the early game snowball that EVOS want to start rolling downhill, as they always do, is nowhere in sight. It's a hot summer day, Granton, and all the snow is melting, and EVOS are going to need to wait until the hyper late game and rely on Cat Satan, their insurance policy, to win this game.
And we've seen the performance he can perform for us when he gets to that point. So it's not too wild to assume that EVOS Esports might play to that. But even as I say that, look at how aggressively they stepped it up, making it difficult for BRU to collect the Rift Herald because they understand, well, we can still win a fight here. There's still a good chance that we can take the fight to BRU, collapse in on them with our big key ultimates. Instead, EVOS Esports, well, after I say that, they're going to back away, they're going to spread out.
Yeah, they can't fight right now. And unlike the last time that we saw this kind of setup, unlike the last time we saw the game being pinned on a quirky AD carry, Buriram have the damage to match. They've got this Orianna who's going to really scale into the late game team fights, especially right now where she's ahead. And it's very hard for EVOS to match that with an Ahri who's a single target duelist and can't team fight nearly as well.
Well, they do trade turrets on the other side. VODs is receiving a lot of gold.
Look at the push from Buriram.
Specifically.
Buriram keep pressing this advantage though. They're still going.
They jump on the Rich first. Tipper's gonna pull them away with the upper hand. Rich still survives. Concussive blows not applied anymore. Won't be able to take anybody down just yet, but it's stuck under turret. We'll have to see if Kinnamon's gonna jump in. He fires out the plasma shot. Won't continue though.
And Thipper demonstrates his class, demonstrates why he's one of the best top laners in the world there. Saving his teammate and denying the effectiveness of that Cataclysm from Noel, but of course all his teammates still needed to reset, so this mid-turret.
EVOS Esports, they're trying to jump in now, but watch out for the Glacial Fissure because it's gonna stop you right there. VODs unable to secure the first kill. Noel comes across with a flagging drag. Kinnamon faces off against a grand challenge but survives with the Captain Rain, but flashing forward with the charm. G4 nearly takes him down. Supporter, stand behind me. The wall will keep him alive.
Supporter comes through, and he keeps Kinnamon alive. And that might have saved the game for Buriram, or at least saved their lead, as it means that EVOS can't build up the snowball. They're still looking though, but Archety's here, heal up the wave clear, and EVOS can't press down the mid turret. If they kill Kinnamon, EVOS absolutely can chip away at the mid turret. Absolutely can take team fights for the next couple of moments. So it is massive that Buriram deny that, even in the face of EVOS's best efforts.
Smart move from Archie to use the shockwave to clear the wave, not get baited by the opponents, because you're not gonna get killed anyway. The best case scenario is you clear the wave, there's nothing for EVOS to do, they have to reset. Look at them, they backed off, and BRU have come in, stolen the blue buff. I mean, just why not, right? But they're now moving on to VODs again, and looking at the repulse, flash of the wall, the charm is waiting for him in the face of Shiba, who is gonna be able to dash away with that key burst.
G4 with the charm to interrupt this cycle, to interrupt the combo. Really well played. But EVOS, they're playing really well, but they're playing from behind. They've matched this game state incredibly. The fact that Valdez got a split lane turret earlier and they mitigated the aggression from Buriram, all remarkable. But the facts of the matter are still Buriram's gold lead growing, EVOS's gold lead not looking so good. They're now behind 3,000 gold. And if you remember, their only hope really in this game is that Cat Satan, the bully down bottom, and the little biplane gets so big he can single-handedly win team fights. They do have other threats. They do have G4, but if we get to the late game, he's not going to be able to match what an Orianna can offer.
And it's going to be so important to make sure that Cassian is alive in a lot of these fights. He's still a ways away from his boot items completed, so he's not going to be able to, well, drop off any kind of crowd control, survive against an initial engage. He's really going to have Rich be there to provide that support and make sure that this engage is available for him. Dragon's going to be up both sides, eyeing it down, unable to commit for it just yet.
And I want to highlight something else as we head into these team fights, which is Archony is one of the best Orianna players I've ever seen. He's really good at playing at the very end of his range, at hovering at the back of these fights and just throwing damage out through the team without being at personal risk. So pay attention to that, pay attention to Archony on these kinds of control mages, because it's really hard to fight into.
And it's a very different situation from what we saw in the third game, where Archony wasn't quite available or quite online. Looking like a potential engage to get the shockwave off. It barely creeps off Cat Satan. We'll have to see if it's going to be enough. Flash away from G4 because he realizes the threats are there. Chasing them down, but they've taken down Archony as well. Valdez making quick work of the backline. The repulse will buy some time. They find the second. The tank down on Noel. And here we have it. EVOS Esports coming back in. They turn tables. Find the hatch on to BRU and get the gold star from TJ.
Valdez and Thipper, the top side, down gold, behind in the game. It does not matter. Buriram go over aggressive and they leave Archony, they leave Kinnamon undefended because Noel hard commits, because Shiba hard commits. They're digging so deep that they don't notice the flag from Valdez, the flag from Thipper. Watch this, they all engage and Valdez right underneath that replay box just full commits onto the backlines, completely ignoring the dime. He knows what matters in this fight is that he sets up for this. Dipper cleaning up the back lines. That is beautiful, and that is why you can never count EVOS out of a game.
Incredible moves from EVOS Esports, who, despite the fact they have been playing from behind, have made incredible macro rotations to match against BRU now. As I say that, they're gonna jump back onto Tipper, who's had to expand the barrier already. He's looking low, has to flash away. You still see G4 and VODs acting as the front man, the lines to block against them to save Tipper. Buriram United unable to find a kill there.
They're gonna keep pressing though, because they know they have an advantage on the map.
Oh my goodness, Rich might not have such a nice time, not so much left to say. It's Noel that takes him down.
And whenever you get someone low like that, Buriram do there, they get a player very low, that player needs to recall. So even if you don't get a kill, you can keep pushing like you did. When you get a kill, when you force someone to back, you've gained tempo, and you should be doing this.
They find tempo and they go into the mid lane, they take down Tipper. That's 2 pickoffs already for BRU, and we'll see what they can do with this tempo.
They're going to keep shoving. They know they still have a player advantage because they kept snowballing these kills. Here's Valdez.
They're working on the turret. Valdez comes in, tries to make an admirable move to keep BRU away, and they will. The turret's still standing.
If you get a kill and the other team didn't do enough damage to force your players to reset, you should always be doing what Buriram are doing. I see a lot of teams, especially teams that are newer to competitive play, resetting after they get a kill. That is the opportunity where you have to press your advantage, and Buriram understand this. And every time they get a kill in that chain, they go, okay, well, we now have another 30-second timer that we've just started. That is until EVOS can fight us with parity. That is until EVOS can fight us in a fair fight. And we're going to keep pressing that advantage until we go a link too far, until we go a bridge too far. And that's when Buriram fall back. Valdez does a little bit of damage, and they're like, okay, we can back off. We won this trade. Very good play from Buriram, and it regrows that gold lead. The gold lead died. It was down to 3K. Now massive again. Look at that.
I love the vision line that we just saw from BRU, by the way, TJ. It just expired, but they had a great line of vision in the jungle of EVOS Esports. So now you can see they know where the opponents are, they know where the aggressors are, so now they get to be the aggressors. They jump in. Rich is going to have to commit the explosive cast. That's also the package used just to disengage.
Down bottom, there's a 1v1 duel happening as Dipper goes all out versus Valdez. Or sorry, Dipper goes all out versus Noel.
Oh my goodness, there's no way the soul kill comes across Captain Rain. Not enough damage, and the plasma shot barely misses.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. And deep breath, Grant, and we're not quite there yet.
I'm a little bit hypey here. TJ,
It is scary though, because Buriram are about to get what would be their 3rd dragon of this game. And with this spike of gold, Kinemon should be at full build. And this is it. This is the moment where Buriram kind of come online into the late game form that I said was going to win them this game. So EVOS need to start a fight now. It's not going to get any better for them. They're relying again entirely on Cat Satan. But now also they do have Valdez in with a shout because he's kept his gold relatively good, all things considered.
Shima's far away from the rest of his team. Those gonna have to watch out. G4, no! Spirit Rush has to flash over the wall. We still have to deal with Shiba. Beautiful plays coming through from this ribbon, TJ. I'm loving this. He's gonna go down though, has to flash away, has to use the dash, he still falls. Valdez on his tail's not necessary there.
What a play from G4 as well, the charm stasis. Absolutely incredible 1v1. The Ignite saving his life. And here we go, 4v4. EVOS want to press this advantage with Shiba down. They have even gold on Cat Satan as anyone on Buriram. He has about 11,000 in the bank. That's about parity with the most fed members of Buriram. You see Buriram around 12k, Cat Satan now around 12k. And that's a sign of just how well EVOS play to their own win conditions. Cat Satan, during games like this where he needs to farm up and be able to match in the late game, you'll notice he's not contributing to any of these weird skirmishing teamfights that EVOS have been doing during this time. Because he doesn't have damage yet. It's not his job to do damage yet. His job is to sit in side lanes and get farm and take jungle camps and kill minions. And he's been doing that so well and so effectively have EVOS enabled it that he is now equivalent to people who have been beating them for 6,000 gold for the last 16 minutes. And Cat Satan will be able, as a result of this, to actively teamfight, to go fair against Buriram. And that's why EVOS still have a shot in this game.
I mean, they're still looking like they haven't lost that fight in them. They're still trying to position against BRU aggressively, watching out for any chance they can get a catch, get a pick off, and maybe try to close out the goal gap again. BRU doing a great job setting up a strong line of vision, making sure that they have all the choke points cleared out, so they're able to play towards their own strength, which are going to be these skirmishes, these fights with the Jarvan, with the Orianna, with the Riven coming in as well. I mean, it's looking pretty decent for them.
And over on the EVOS side, they don't want to take those skirmishes. They want to rely on the fact that they have the picks. They have VODs, they have G4, who are so good at finding individual isolated players. Thipper as well. Anytime that they can catch somebody out by themselves, EVOS are winning.
They're back onto the Baron now. First though, Flag and Drag comes across from the well, trying to build some
up
speed.
river.
G4 misses out the chance, so it's going to be a disastrous fight for them
There's
to take.
Thipper.
Grand challenge, locks them back in. A beautiful knockback from Shiba. Tipper's now joining
EVOS
as well,
win
but they
this.
have damage to finally take him down. It's going over. The Kinemon coming online is the ultimate marksman. The ultimate marksman wins! And a triple kill and a double kill makes for an ace. It's 2+3 TJ. It's simple mathematics. Buriram United on the victory march.
That's it! Archony arrives in the late game and lands a truly massive team fight ultimate, and Buriram will upset EVOS. Buriram will take down the best team in Thailand and the reigning champions, knocking